My favorite reactions, and probably the most reactions we get, is somebody who didn't expect that they would see like a chili oil brand just at like a craft fair and then trying it and being like, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Welcome back to another episode of Founder Real Talk. I'm your host, Josh Broward, and we have a special treat today. We have Tram and Alex from Hot Boy Chili Oil. This is our first time doing two co-founders for Founder Real Talk, so we get an interesting dynamic. And the whole point of this podcast is to bring out the real founder journey. Most founders feel lonely. They feel like they're on an island and that it's harder for them than it is for other people. And as a coaching company, we see hundreds of founders. And so we know it's not harder for you. It just feels harder because it's your hardness. It's your hard journey. And so we thought this podcast would be a great way to bring some of that struggle out into the open so we can support each other better. So without any further ado, let me introduce our guests. Tram and Alex lead Hot Boy Chili Oil, which may be the coolest company name I've ever heard of. And I have a sample here. It is a garlic and hot pepper sauce, I believe in Vietnamese tradition. Is that right? Yeah, some nods, sort of.
Chili oil is traditionally a Chinese condiment,
Okay,
yes, but we've taken our own spin on it, adding in Vietnamese spices that are commonly found in like our kitchen in our household.
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, maybe you guys can tell us more, set the record straight on Hot Boy Chili Oil. Tell us how you got the name and why you started this company.
Well, honestly, the name came to me after this whole situation during COVID. I had really nothing to do for myself, and one day just wanted to experiment on something. I think a lot of us had nothing to do, anyways, because everything's on lockdown. And this is a condiment that I've enjoyed throughout my entire childhood with my father, and so I decided to make it. Didn't taste very great, and took a nap disappointingly. And in those 20 minutes, I think I had a Beatles Paul McCartney experience where I had a dream and I saw clouds with fried garlic floating on these clouds. And so I woke up immediately and I went straight to the kitchen. I started chopping up some garlic, whatever we had in the kitchen, and started frying it. And it tasted okay. It was something that I felt like that I had wanted in chili oil to begin with. And it's sort of inspired by the SMB brand of Chili Crunch. And I've had that a long time ago, but I just don't really think to it too much. But that was sort of the inspiration too. But that experience, is it's it's sort of like a when life gives you lemons, you just sort of make anything that goes with it. And we just kept going with it. Tram tried it and she was like, "Oh, this is great." And she was like, "We should start a business." And so we just put it up on my personal Instagram and asked one of my best friends. I was like, "Hey, thinking about starting this thing. Do you have any like names for something I want to start?" And he just threw out a bunch of names. First one that he threw out was Hot Boy Chili Oil. And before he went on to his next sentence, I was like, "That's the one." And that was the first one too. And then he was like, "Okay, well, don't forget me when you get rich." And I was like, "Okay, we'll see about that."
Get a lifetime
Yeah,
supply.
yeah, yeah. And that was sort of the start of everything. When it came to the mascot, my dad, he's such a marketer person, because he has his own business and CPG as well. But just randomly, when just they're like passing, he was like, you should have a now as a mascot. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a pretty good idea. I think I'm gonna take this and see how this goes. And it made sense because I think in general, when brands have a mascot that really ties into the story of the brand, he's a Shiba Inu. He's very hot-headed. He can be a very nice boy, but sometimes he's very mean. It just made sense to really fit with the aesthetic of our brand as well.
He's a little spicy, huh?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
little spicy. Yeah, he absolutely hates it when another dog smells his butt, but he will smell other dogs' butts. He just will not let any other dog smell his butt.
Thanks, Alex. Cham, could you tell us, why does this business resonate with you personally?
What do you mean by that question?
Of all the things you could be doing, why are you making and selling chili oil?
Yeah, let's see. Well, my career path wasn't in entrepreneurship or business like at all. I actually started in the medical field. I was studying for the MCAT during COVID, and during that time, I was also working in a clinic, but I had decided that maybe it's a good time to step away from the clinic because I was living at home with my grandmother and my little cousin, who are both vulnerable populations to the virus. And so, just as an act to protect them and not bring anything home and potentially bring harm into my family, I decided to step away from clinic work, and then I ended up moving down to San Jose to isolate with Alex, and we were starting this business together for fun. And that's kind of how my journey had led me to business and entrepreneurship. But why chili oils? It was just food had always been something that I was really passionate about outside of work in healthcare and in the medical field. I think all of my coworkers knew me as a person who like loved food and was always seeking out the next like fun like restaurant to eat at or the next fun thing to like cook at home. And it just made sense that it would be a food product that I would sell. But I think for entrepreneurship, it was something that I think in the back of my mind in the very beginning, it was something that I would tell people like, oh, I'm just doing this for fun. Even though I was very passionate about it, it took me a really long time to actually call myself an entrepreneur I think it's the imposter syndrome. Like I don't come from this field and whatnot, but I think that it was actually last year when when it hit me, I was like, I think I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm kind of all in this and it's my passion. I love like the person who I'm becoming on this journey. They say that when you are an entrepreneur and you're building a business, you're not just building a business, you're building yourself. You're building the discipline to keep going and to build something that you can be very proud of. And so the business is part of the product, but you are also a huge part of that product that you're building. And that's kind of like the lesson that I've been reflecting on a lot lately.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And another first for Founder Real Talk, I'm going to do a live tasting here. So I can see up at the top, there's chunks of fried garlic. I didn't know it was fried, but I got that. And then at the bottom is the dried chili peppers. So I think you guys can coach me through this, but I think I should probably shake it up, spread out the
Yeah, give
garlic.
it a good shake. Yeah, and then get a spoon or open it up, grab a spoon, and just put it on your food.
I don't have a spoon, but I do have some breadsticks. So I think I'm just
Okay, yeah.
gonna dip.
This one's pretty spicy though, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Oh,
This one has Carolina Reapers.
I got
Yeah,
the fire one, and I have
yeah.
come prepared with water.
Okay, okay.
And I grew up in Louisiana and Texas, so
Nice.
Okay.
my wife says I have burned off all my taste buds. That's not true. It just needs to be appropriately intense. So I've already
Yeah,
taken the
sure.
plastic safety seal. Okay, here we go. Just gonna smell it first. It smells, I think the garlic kind of gives it a savory smell right off the front. I didn't expect
hmm
that. Let me see.
That's just the oil too, and we basically like throughout our entire production process, it's always like how do we incorporate the most flavors we can. Yeah, it's spicy, right?
I can feel it in my nose.
Yeah.
Wow, that is delicious. I didn't get any, I think when I dipped, I just got the oil.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like kind of salty, savory, and also spicy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love.
The one that you got is fire, and that one has Carolina Reapers. So it's like our more spicy version of the chili oil. People say that there's like a cheesy note to it or like a savory, smoky note to it.
Uh-huh.
But the product itself is still plant-based and soy-free and nut-free.
Right. What do you see most often when people try hot boy chili oil the first time?
I think probably my favorite reactions and probably the most reactions we get is somebody who didn't expect that they would see like a chili oil brand just at like a craft fair and then trying it and being like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And they weren't looking for it to begin with. And that's the people that we really want because they just end up being our loyal customers because we've basically created exactly what the customer is looking for. And that's really important to us because within the market, we've seen folks that make a chili crunch that, yes, they do offer some garlic bits in there, but we figure out the science to have a specific crunch to our product. And when we try to reproduce this crunch, make a new batch, whatever. If there's like a batch of garlic that isn't up to our standard, we have to toss that out. And it's funny because I've talked to another founder about this problem, and he also makes like a candy bar that deals with timing temperature and consistency with their crunch and the candy bar. And they also experience the same thing as us, is that if we can't get this right for our product, then it doesn't make sense for us to even release it, because that's what the value proposition of our business is the crunch. And so that's why people really love eating our product and loving the garlic crunch with the chili oil.
In addition to the crunch, I think people are very delighted with the spice level. A comment that we hear often from our customers is that a lot of chili oil in the market doesn't have that spice, even though that they say that they're spicy. But then ours, even our medium SKU, our medium product, it, the original, it has a nice level of spice in it already. And that's also what people are looking for.
Well, as a spice lover, I can validate my mouth is still tingling.
Yes, the fire is it creeps up on you and it will linger. So
I don't know if it crept up on me. It kind of hit me right in the teeth right from the beginning. But it almost is very rare for me to have the wasabi effect with like a traditional spice, like a thing that tastes spicy. Doesn't usually like get my nose tingly, but
mm.
this did, and I can still feel it in my mouth as well. So if anybody is looking for actually spicy hot boy chili oil, this is the stuff. All right. So let's do a little business talk. What is a big win for you guys over the past year?
I think a big win for the past year is really spending more time with our advisors. For me, especially seeing that we've slowly transitioned to our new facility and learning how we can scale up each step, each production process, and how that works in a larger sense. And so if and how we maximize our current output, and how we can further scale along, whether it's with a co-manufacturer or whether it's self production or self manufacturing. So that's been a very big learning lesson for me, and working with, we haven't changed too many suppliers with our product to begin with, but we're in the process of looking for suppliers that may be more international, and then folks that are also distributing within the United States, but then figuring out whether or not these ingredients work with our product. And that's been pretty fun because, yeah, it just lets us sort of go to different expos and conventions and kind of look for certain ingredients that can really scale up our brand and have consistent inventory for us as well.
And you look like you got something to share, Cham.
Yeah, a really big win for me has been seeing like our product in the wild, and by the wild just like in public. We would sometimes see people in our t-shirts and we're like, oh my gosh, like we love hot boy chili oil, and they're like, me too. Or sometimes we'll see our friends send over pictures of like our products in stores in like boutiques and stuff, and they would hear other people rave about the product. It's been really exciting and fun and validating to hear what others are responding when they see our product. I think another really big win after this past winter season was realizing how much we have grown as a business as well. And it's constant growth. And when I stand in this moment, I look back, I just feel so proud of how like far we've come as a business. And then like when reviewing certain things and realizing that we're actually doing very well for ourselves. For example, that hockey stick growth, like that people talk about in business. Like I we're experiencing something like that. Like we're seeing that in our financial trends. So it's really validating just to realize that like because we're like in the weed of it. So we're just like working so hard and sometimes we don't realize like how we're doing as a business because we're just like so in the groove of things that when we take a step back and we start to realize like we're actually doing really great and this is something to celebrate. But we haven't been celebrating. We should celebrate though. Yeah. That's interesting.
You guys recently got into an accelerator, is that right?
We
With
did
rallies?
ACA for a little bit. Rallies, so Rallies had reached out to us, and this is one of the things about I think opportunity that yes, it's there, but it's important when to say yes and no. And at first, when they reached out to us, they wanted to get us on the innovation shelves, and they were like, "Hey, we'll give you 50 stores, but you have to meet this deadline." And with throughout
Mm,
that time, they give us about like maybe 6 months to make this deadline. We're scrambling, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best place for us to transition into? How do we produce the amount of product that we need to produce to meet the demand of the store, but also meet the demand of our e-commerce and our local events, because those are also our sales channels.
mhm.
The local events are pretty much our strongest sales channel,
Okay.
because we're very deliberate on which events that we attend, especially ones that are our perfect demographic. They have the perfect foot traffic, and that it's a consistent amount of customers coming in and out. That it helps drive our revenue and helps keep the business afloat. As far as like opportunities like Rayleigh's. At the time, we're like, okay, we just have to say yes and then figure it out. Because sometimes you're going to have to do that. But at the end of the day, when we felt like we were ready, they came back to us and said they had changed what type of products were going to be on the shelves. And so that was a kind of a lost opportunity, but we still have their contact. And I told my team, I was sort of like, I knew that this was going to happen because opportunity like this, like even being in the store itself, Rayleigh's isn't the best demographic that we're looking for as well.
Mm.
And so even if we were in the store, we'd have to work really hard to get our product off the shelves. And I don't know if like our team is fully prepared for that because of how much if it does pop off, then we have to really work really hard to meet the demand, produce even more. And so after that whole like situation, I just felt that what's important to us is to have our operations down, to be able to produce whatever amount that we need to produce, have the right set of tools and resources so that when we're ready, when we go into these retail stores, whether it's a small store or it's a big store, that we can actually meet the demand. Because it goes back to one of the first things that we learned being in this industry is that you have one shot to be in these grocery stores or retail stores or whatever channel that you're in that's more of the major leagues. So that's something that I try to keep in mind, and something that we discuss with our advisor. We have a couple different advisors. One of the advisors is like, you gotta get into retail, you gotta call these people, you gotta make the contact, which is great. I definitely agree with her. But our other advisor, who focuses more on our operation and our engineering, he's like, I'm glad you're taking the stance of like taking it slow and making sure we have everything down in terms of like process is a systematic approach. And we have all these things down before we start scaling. Otherwise, we're going to be going in blind and we might make a big mistake and it might be too big for us to fix. And actually, we did have a pretty big mistake over the week. And it's very rare that we've had these mistakes because we've maintained our suppliers for a very long time. But this time around, we changed just one ingredient, and it really changed the spice level of our batches. And so we had to figure out, okay, how do we fix this? Because is this going to affect the customers? The customers have been ordering for us for a long time, and how do we mitigate this problem? Especially that we've made some really big changes in how we produce as well. the frequency in how we produce. We used to produce on a need basis, and now it's more on a timely basis through a quarterly system, so that it's less work for our production team afterwards, after production for the first month of the quarter, and then the rest of it, we're all just focused on sales and coming up with new ideas to finish off the quarter. And so it's been more challenging starting this year, but I think it's giving us a lot of insight on how we operate better in the future. And so the goal for this year has always been, how do we get to operational excellency?
Yeah, that's great. One of my newer friends leads an alcohol company that's slowly transitioning to a national brand. And one thing that he says that really resonates with what you're talking about is you have to get your operations in order before you scale. Otherwise, you just scale chaos.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And it's already hectic to begin with because we both like don't come from corporate backgrounds. And so we're sort of learning from the ground up, but we're very fortunate that we have people on our side giving us like the pointers and the tips and the advice for us to move in a strategic way. I guess like the only upside for us is that we're a small team, but we can make very small mistakes in that we have a lot of trust within the team, that folks can raise their concerns and we can figure out how do we make this better. Yeah, I would say that on the retail side, in terms of like front facing with our customers, we have our operations down. I think we've nailed it down to a T. So when we do local pop-ups, any big festival, we know how to set it up, get it down where like we can maximize the revenue for that. And when it comes to like retail stores, we're still learning about that because it's a whole new other challenge. Food service as well. That's something we'd love to get into, but it would be a very big challenge for us to tackle something like that.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Cham, I wonder if you could share a lesson that you've learned the hard way. One thing we talk about a lot in Wisdom Partners is wisdom is actually failure redeemed.
Mm.
So is the cat changing places,
Yeah.
changing owners, different cuddle buddy? What's some wisdom that you have earned through struggle?
A wisdom that I gained through struggle. I think my biggest struggle is the imposter syndrome that I always feel. Like, I don't feel like it's kind of how, like Alex mentioned earlier, like, we don't come from a corporate background. And so I don't come from a system, I don't come from a background where I've learned what it's like to be in a system for the role that I am in. And so I think that feeds a lot into my insecurity about whether I'm doing something correctly or not.
Tram possesses a quality that I think most co-founders should possess, which is the ability to be coachable and the ability to have grit. I think that's very important because it's sort of like, and I was thinking about this the other day, and then I was trying to like package it in a phrase. It's like people think they can be a leader, but there are folks who cannot handle being a leader. And that's
Mm.
very different, two very different things. And so, you know, Tram's able to put herself in a leadership role and really challenge the status quo of what she believes to be herself as. And I think she always tends to go out of her shell to be that leader that our team needs whenever I'm not around. And I think that's great because I don't need to be the person leading all the time. And yeah, I think those qualities are just truly important for co-founders. I hope that was an add-on to what you were trying to say.
It's nice to hear it, but yeah, I appreciate that. I think that that's very validating to hear because I think because of the imposter syndrome, I just never know if I'm doing something correctly or not. Um, I feel like I'm constantly in need of guidance and whether or not I'm like handling a situation appropriately or professionally, or if this is the right thing or right way or industry standard, or I think also a really big fear as we're growing and we're bringing people onto the team is that like I'm so nervous of being the toxic boss because I've had experiences as like a 9 to 5 employee where because I come from healthcare and the standard in healthcare training is that like there is a harshness in the training and the people at the top are constantly saying, well, this is what I went through to learn how to be a doctor. so this is what you have to go through. And I just never really agreed with that because I feel like people learn so much more when there's more care and compassionate in the training. And so I think like a really big fear is that like I come from this background where I was trained very harshly. So I hope that I am not coming across harshly or that my expectations are too harsh for the people who are coming in, or I just want to be sure that I'm doing right by people that are part of my team. It's a lot of it's a lot of growing, a lot of I think being self-aware. And then I think also like a really big key is to like just be gentle with myself and to know that like I have good values. I hope, I think. And that if I allow that to guide me, then the mistakes that I make, they're not unforgivable. I can continue to work through them. I can be accountable for my actions, and I can just try to be the best that I can be for myself and my team.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've mentioned a few times how you've been growing as leaders. How are you investing in yourself and your own growth? What have you done over the last year or so to help you through that growth process?
Yeah. When we started the business, I thought business was just selling things to people. And then eventually Alex said, when you're in business, you are also a business leader because eventually you're going to have to start managing people and teams. And that made me so nervous because I had never imagined myself as what I conventionally thought what leaders were. And I actually always have shied away or self-detrimental jokes. For example, at a previous job that I had, I actually rose to the top in terms of seniority. And so it was my job to train people. And they're like, oh, that's the head tech. That's Tram. Like, you go to her. And I'm like, nope, I'm not the head tech. I'm just one of you guys. Like, if I train you, I'm just showing you how it's done. Like, I would always kind of just try to make that responsibility like not as noticeable for myself, even though I think everybody knew that I had seniority. And so when Alex had mentioned the reality of what it means to be a person in business and how there's leadership tied to it, it was something that made me super, super nervous. But I have also been making strides in business to grow, first of all, my acumen, my knowledge, because I don't come from a background of business. So I can't just go off vibes all the time. I have to have some kind of like fundamental knowledge. So I'm in an MBA to help gain that knowledge, even though I'm midway through the MBA and I feel like a lot of things that I am learning are things that I am also learning just by having the business. But it's also really fantastic to learn how to think and how to strategize. And that's been, I think, the true value of being in an official program, an official school for learning how to be an entrepreneur. But I think that in addition to that, I also have like my own personal therapy with where I work through the imposter syndrome and like just the relationship building and being aware of like who I am and how I present and how my emotions can influence the way that I behave. And so mastering that or becoming able to manage like who I am in my internal world so that I can present well in my external world has been very helpful. But then I think something that has been really instrumental has been like a business coach. So for Hot Boy, I take care of operations and sometimes I'm so chaotic. Like I'll start a project, I'll burn the midnight oil for it. And then it's kind of like 90% complete. Like I haven't had another eye on it and whatnot. And then I also don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And so having a business coach has been, and I actually have a business coach through Wisdom. So shout out. And it's been really helpful to have somebody like another person in my like proverbial village helping to guide me in this journey that I'm on. And this being an entrepreneur is kind of like my whole life right now. Like it's everything to me right now. And so having somebody like who I feel like I can trust, who I feel like has good wisdom to provide and have good guidance and can tell me like, you're doing great, keep going, or maybe we can reframe this, or maybe there's a different direction that we can take. It's invaluable. It's been invaluable.
Yeah, when I heard you say in one of the founder forums through ICA that you need an operations coach, I was like, ooh, Mark. And so it's been really satisfying to see you two hit it off. And I, like you said, he has the experience, and he's such a gentle person that
Yeah.
he can share it in a way that doesn't feel like getting slapped around.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark has been really great. Although I am really bad at doing the homework, but the meetings have been really helpful.
Okay, what's the biggest challenge you guys are trying to solve right now?
It's still a tighter operation. And having things, that is up to standard, up to code, everything's standardized down to like how our ingredients are standardized as well. I think as we're trying to get into a different revenue stream or channel, that we have our supply chain down, and we have all of our contacts for that, but we haven't really talked to all or not we haven't really started that relationship in terms of purchasing and whatnot, but we still already we've maintained that relationship through like whether it's like constant communication or they have certain ingredients that our friends might need as well. I'll do the intros and whatnot, and I think that's something that's really helped us too to maintain our business relationships with folks. But yeah, tighter operations so that we can scale. um and and again, it goes back to the value proposition of our product. If we can't get the garlic right, we essentially have no product. And that's really important to us.
Okay, thanks. Anything you want to add there, Chan?
What's the question?
What's the biggest challenge you guys are trying to solve?
I agree. I think we just finished a challenge of fully transitioning into a bigger, newer kitchen. And right now I think the challenge that Alex had just mentioned of making a tight operations is kind of like the tail end of the challenge, the hurdle that we just had, where we're learning what it's like to work in this kitchen in the space that is available to us. And we're learning and we're doing like a little mini scale as well, learning how to make things in a bigger batch than we have done previously and trying to figure out how to do things more proactively. Like earlier in the conversation, Alex talked about how we began forecasting every quarter, and so that's been very exciting because I feel like all of last year it was very reactive, like, oh, we need to go make more chili oil, and that would get in the way of me doing like the admin work of the business. But it's been exciting to come up with this plan and this strategy because now I can imagine more time to do my emails and the communications and all of that. It's been
Yeah.
the growth that we're going through has been very fun.
And I think like folks might ask us, and folks that are who are listening might be like, why didn't you figure this out earlier? A part of it is we didn't have a great like marketing strategy, and we didn't have anyone really helping us make content either, until last year when we brought on some interns that they were able to help us make consistent content and help us with marketing strategies so that we can know how we can produce certain ROIs with what we're putting out there. Even with like doing pop-ups, I think the past couple of years was always about, okay, which pop-ups are the best one for us, that can drive the most traffic, ROI, and revenue. And we've figured it out last year, and that it made sense for us to do a little bit more forecasting for this year. And that way we can determine like how much do we need to produce on the first month of the quarter. And that makes it way more easier, from each quarter, so that we can have the time to spend more on like executing other parts of our strategies rather than just again doing on a need to basis, and that just takes up a lot of our time. Yeah.
So if somebody is listening out there and they think, I'm really excited about Hot Boy Chili Oil and they want to support you guys, other than buying some or buying some swag, how can they help you? Who are you guys trying to meet? What will help you move the needle forward?
Well, if folks have contacts for certain buyers that might be interested in our product, that'd be cool to speak with folks. If not, love to see folks just come out to our events, and love to chat with folks who are interested in starting a business, who are looking to like they want to ask for certain folks that we know as well. We're always happy to share our network. I think that's important because like in any business or any type of endeavor you're going into, having the right network is the best way to have a better chance at success. And it's not that having a better network will guarantee you success, but it will give you a better chance at it.
Yeah, I've also always believed that food is a great unifier. It brings people together. It's a great conversation starter. I think sharing Hot Boy with friends and family does more than I can expect. Nothing, I think like we're so engrossed in social media and getting like information through influencers and content creators, but I think there's something so golden about word of mouth and from people that we know in person. So like I think that if there's anything anybody could do, it's talking about the product.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's definitely been the biggest thing with our brand too, because we when we started off, we didn't do crazy marketing or crazy content and whatnot, because folks tend to like do content that's like really overreactive or whatever to get views and whatnot. But for us, it's been word of mouth.
Hmm.
And it came down to having a product that tastes great, and is relatable to people. And I think that's really important, at the end of the day. It definitely got more validated when we were at Fancy Food Show a couple of years back in Vegas, and I got invited to a dinner, and we had they basically had like industry leaders, and some folks who are founders as well. We could sit at a dinner table, and it'd be a networking event, and sat next to someone who is an executive for a platform that connects brands with major retailers. So basically, major retailers would do a call to action, and then the brands would apply for it. And he asked me what I did, and I explained that we do chili oil and whatnot, make the crunchiest on the market, and and he's like, okay, that's great. You've talked about your product. It sounds and tastes great, but what does it look like? And I showed it to him, and he looked at it, and he was like, okay, this is exactly something that a lot of founders are missing sometimes when it comes to having a brand, is that sometimes they might have a great product, but they don't invest it into their branding.
Right.
And that's really important because these major retailers are looking for that as well. Uh,
Yeah.
so um, that was one of the biggest validations I've gotten, especially coming from somebody who's an executive,
Yes.
in our space as well, because we invested heavily early on, and we didn't have that much money. We didn't have a lot of bootstrap money to begin with, but um, I felt like from the start, I did all the designs from the start, but after a while, people did see us as a legitimate, this is my own imposter syndrome, but people saw us as like a real legitimate business that you would find on a shelf. And, at that point, I was like, you know what? I probably should invest some money into really designing something that can stand the test of time. And so we put in our money for that, and it just felt really great to be validated by someone who's in the industry. Our advisor had some choice words as well at Fancy Food Show when he found out how much we paid for it, but his mind was changed after Whole Foods came by and they were just like, "Hey, how much is this? Like, how do we get this on the shelf and whatnot?" But
Hmm.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Cool. Last question is for you, Chem. I I know you participated in the ICA founder forums that Wisdom Partners hosted. Could you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like and how it made a difference for you?
Prior to the reason why I signed up for the founder forum was because I was looking for it was something that interested me because I was looking for something to build. I wanted a place to build community with other founders. And truthfully, when entering spaces like that, it's kind of scary because like, what do I know about being a founder? um, I think disconnected I feel with the identity of being a founder. And so I thought that maybe this would be a space where I can grow into, I can one start to define what being a founder means to me and then grow into that. And so when I was in the space with other founders, I had realized that like I'm truly not alone in this feeling that I feel. Like I think everybody or the majority of people can relate to just how I don't know if the feeling is like insecurity, just how we just were struggling in very similar ways. The technique that we had or the activities that the discussions that we had in the founders forum, it taught me. So the conversation is usually like we present what we're going through, like an issue that we're going through, and then the listeners, like other founders in the space, would provide. Like for me, my experience was that when I'm listening to somebody's issue, I would dig into my memory, and I would like dig into like my brain and see what kind of wisdoms I could offer or what I would do in this situation. Like if I were in this situation, what am I thinking about? And so from my personal experience, it made me realize that I have so much to offer as a founder. And not only that, but I have so much to offer for my business. And it built up my confidence very slowly, but very surely as well. And so now when I move through certain issues that we have in the business, and Alex and I joke around about how to be an entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable with putting out fires because the fires will come every day and you're not really expecting it. And so anytime we encounter a fire, I used to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, this is so overwhelming. Like, I need to sit down. But now it's like, okay, like, what would I do? Like, let's dig into my brain. Like, what have we encountered in the past? What have I encountered in my own personal like life? Like maybe outside of the business or like in the business, or what am I learning in school? So it's just digging through the bank that is my brain, help figure out like what the solutions could be and offering it to the situation. But I feel like I have definitely grown a lot through that experience.
It sounds like you're saying it's helped you become more resilient.
Yes. Yeah. And confident too. Yeah. I think more sure of like the position that I'm in, like being an entrepreneur and just knowing that I do have the answers. It just takes time, or it takes research, or it takes reaching out into my network and seeing what others have done too. And that's something that I have also learned through the founder forum as well. Like I have people, and I think that's what our network is for. I believe like it's not just getting us into certain doors, but it's having a community where we can ask questions to, and likewise we can provide answers to those questions for others.
Alex and Tram, I'm so grateful for you guys to spend time talking about your journey today. I think we hit the target. This was real talk, and I'm just really grateful. Thank you guys for being part of this.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for
so
having
much
us,
for
Josh. I
having
really
us.
appreciate it.